When I look at a service schedule, it is that it's the agreed upon contract between us and the customer that says, I do this amount of work this frequently and you pay this price for that.
It has to be so specific and simple that there is no other interpretation of it.
I teach people how to clean, not what to clean.
It should not be so long and detailed and wordy that you can't memorize what it is. We can do anything you want us to do. It only costs money. Today, we're going to be discussing an essential document that will save you a lot of headache in the future. We're talking about service schedules or scope of work. Service schedules are a checklist of cleaning tasks your customers can expect you to perform. In this episode of the OxyClean podcast, Greg and I will discuss what to include in your service schedule, when to customize your service schedule, and how to share your service schedule with your customer. Here we go, Greg. You ready to do this?
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
New year, new haircut.
New haircut.
Last time you saw I had wigs on.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was like, dang, I did that. Okay.
That was a couple times ago. Still.
I thought you were just joking with people, but you're right. It was the wig thing. I forgot about that.
Okay. We're back.
I got a haircut. And
Nothing new.
And I'm also wearing a cardigan.
Well, let's not get off track.
No.
But get back on the track.
Let's jump into this topic today.
So Matt, why are service schedules necessary? You work in sales a lot. So in that aspect, like, if I'm coming in and I want a service schedule, why do people even want a service schedule?
So I'm going to come at this a few different ways. First thing is like, duh. I mean, you have to have them. If you're going to clean a facility, the person that is going to hire you is going to want to know what you're going to do daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly.
It's like you get this for the price you pay.
Right. If you're going to hire an employee, you're going to have a job description. You're going to tell them this is what you're supposed to do. This is when you're going to be here for work, et cetera. That's really the equivalent of a service schedule. So it's absolutely necessary. It is, because if you don't have it, you're not going to get hired. I mean, that's just bottom line.
It's kind of like a contract, I would think, too, right?
Right.
Like, I'm going to do, you bring your car to get the oil changed. They're going to tell you exactly what they're going to do. And when they're done, they give you a little list.
Exactly.
And that's similar to that.
And they upcharge you until you need 1,000 things, but we don't need to get into that. The point of a service schedule really, and I'll say this too, if a person hires you and you haven't presented them with a service schedule, okay, you probably don't want to work for them, because what they're going to do is they're going to say, well, you're going to come in at 6 o'clock and you're going to leave at 8:30, and now what you've turned into is really their maid. So anything that they want is going to be now on the service schedule they're creating every single week, every single day. So you need something so there's some structure, right? And there's some expectations. Absolutely.
I train a lot of franchisees. I train employees, and they always want to say, well, what's a service schedule? And they look at it probably like a lot of other people look at it. We have the sales side, then we have the actual service side or operations side. With that, when I look at a service schedule, it is that it's the agreed upon contract between us and the customer that says, I do this amount of work this frequently and you pay this price for that.
Right.
Now, that locks everyone in. It locks the customer in, saying, okay, that's all I get. So now they can't do like Matt's saying, if they just have a time to be here, hey, clean my building. Everybody's idea of clean my building is different. I've dealt with a customer that said, hey, can you go on top of a ladder and bring out my HVAC vents, clean the inside to put it back up?
Yeah.
That's clean to him, where other people are like, well, just, empty the trash. So having that service schedule does set the standard of service and say, look, now we're accountable for everything that let's say Matt went in and sold them, and it makes it on operational side. If you flip that, we don't need to go to Matt and say, hey, Matt, why does Sue want this done?
Yeah.
Because this other person didn't want that done. And it helps the sales side and operational side. We have one standard of service. You move forward, it is nothing different. So,
yeah, and I would say to that, it's a different topic really for a podcast in the future, or maybe for one of our lives. But you end up with, and so I won't talk too much about it, but you end up with a client who says do X, Y, and Z, even with the service schedule, And too often, folks who are in supervision or janitorial company owners or franchisees, they don't know what their service schedule says. They don't have a clear understanding. And so when one of their customers say, hey, go and clean the dishes, or can you scrub this off of the floor, or can you strip and finish my floor, they're doing stuff for free. And if you're doing free things, it's very, very hard to unwind free stuff. Like, it's very hard. So it's better for you to have a service schedule, know the service schedule, and not make an excuse like it's not included. It's better to say, well, let me take a look at the service schedule with you, and we can decide together what we are going to do and what we aren't going to do, and how much it would cost for us to do that, because we can do anything. One of my favorite sayings. Yeah, we can do anything you want us to do. It only costs money. So service schedules set the rules. They set the rules. The other reason that I was to say on the sales side that I want to bring this up on the service schedules, why it's necessary. It's necessary because if I walk into a prospect and I hand them a service schedule, I give them a service schedule, and they start going line by line by line by line, detail by detail, you kind of know what you're going to get from that client if they decide they're going to hire you. And it's not always that way. I mean, I had a client that just recently started, and we sat with their controller, and their controller wanted to make sure that we weren't doing too much, because someone else was going to look at that and say, oh, you need to wipe down all of our medical equipment. You need to do this, you need to do that. And so she was like, take that stuff out, because you don't want to get caught up in that. That's what that told me is that client is reasonable. On the other hand, if I had a potential client that was going through every little thing, every little detail, well, you know what that's going to be. It's going to be like, now they're going to come in, like, do you have a checklist, and do you guys mark it off every single night? And can you leave that on my desk?
Or let me make you a check. Or let me make this checklist, because I don't think your people are wiping my baseboards every week.
So having a service schedule gives you a lot of opportunities to learn a lot of things.
And it brings you back to the original decision that you've had with a sales rep, because a lot of times in larger, even medium-sized companies, the person that's meeting with the customer is not the sales rep that sold them the actual service. It's somebody, they're a franchise owner, the cleaners, a customer service rep, account manager, and they're like, well, let's go back to what we originally agreed upon. So yes, it's definitely necessary. But what do you think, Matt, should be included in that? Like, so if I'm going to say, I'm brand new, we've gone down this, we've had service schedules where it's like everything under the sun, and then now it's not. So like daily, weekly cleaning tasks, what do you think should be included?
Yeah, you want to keep your daily, weekly, and monthly tasks to a point that we build them around our cleaning process, right? So starter, closer, sanitary, utility. And I should be able to, it should not be so long and detailed that and wordy that you can't memorize what it is. To the extent that, I've had prospects who I've walked with, and they're like, so what do you do in this exam room? And I said, well, let me start off with this position. Like, what they would do this, they'd wipe the counter, they would clean the sink, they would empty the trash, they would dust this area, but we don't touch the bed. Like, I mean, I can kind of recount everything that's on the service schedule, and then say, well, then we do the floors. So that everything is within a structure that you can,
first that you understand.
Yeah, you could recount that, but you could speak to it without having to be like, and we do that, and then here's my service schedule. And when you train someone, they're not going to, that franchise owner, employee, whatever it is, you're training to the service schedule, right? Like you talk about this all the time with operations, is we don't hand someone a service schedule and say, read all of that, that's what you're supposed to do. We train to the service schedule, right?
Yeah, and the end employee, which is like the end user of that service schedule, the person doing the cleaning, they don't even, 99% of the time, we don't want them to see the service schedule. We want them to know how to clean. And that's something I always say. I teach people how to clean, not what to clean. Where most companies will say, this is what we're going to do. Here's our service schedule. This is what you clean. Well, then you have somebody that doesn't know what to do, and you're like, okay, well, I read it, but I still don't get it. Yeah. I can give you a list on how to build something, but that doesn't mean you know how to do it. So I'm teaching you actually how to clean. That enables you to not worry about a service schedule, to treat it as that contract between my office and the people getting paid, but I know how to clean. So I know what exactly to clean. Like Matt was, his analogy where he was saying I could go with a customer and say, in his head, see it, well, this is what I was going to do. If you can't do that, your service schedule is too big. If you can't sit there and be like, all right, sit down with, I don't know, your wife, whatever, your friend, and say, hey, I want to write a service schedule. Let me tell you what we clean. But it does work into that process and say, this is what we clean. If you can't sit there and say it and it matches the service schedule, you probably have the wrong service schedule.
Well, and so the daily activities are pretty basic, right? So dust, trash, wiping spots off desks, etc. Spot vacuuming. Weekly types of things are going to be, dust that's above your head. And we'll get into monthlies in a minute. So, but wall-to-wall vacuuming, and those are pretty basic things. Wall-to-wall mopping, like you're doing all the things. On a monthly basis, blinds, vents, etc. Those are, and fortunately for all of our listeners and people watching on YouTube, we have our service schedules available for you to review. Now, we have to look at ours every couple of years because, it's always interesting for me to review service schedules with clients. And I'm like, whoa, okay, that shouldn't be on there. Or, oh, we need to change the language on that a little bit because, what we think is perfect at the time that it's written and it's published is not perfect later. So you really age well. You create it, you look at it, and then you have to look at it again and say, well, okay, we got hit with this, and this by these clients about these types of things because they interpreted it a certain way, and we need to make sure that it's outside of any possible interpretation. It has to be so specific and simple that there is no other interpretation of it. Yeah. And that's not something that a lot of people do. I've read, how many service schedules have you read? Over the years from competitors, hundreds.
And the thing I noticed too, like we say, we have ours daily, weekly, monthly. We may have it like quarterly, semi-annually. It depends on if we're adding stuff. But what I also see with other people, and something we've always probably talked about, is that we never have anything there as needed. No. So you either want it every day or you want it frequently, however it is, every 2 weeks. But I see service schedules that as needed. So my as needed may not be Matt's as needed. Well, Matt's as needed maybe like every single day.
If I ask this question to every single person who's listening to this podcast, okay, and I say, what is as needed? If you are training an employee and you tell them you need to do that as needed, all of you should be answering never until there's a complaint, because that's what it is. Really, you cannot train an individual to do something as needed because they're not an owner.
And the customer's the opposite. The customer's like every day, 2 times a day, can you come here? It's constant. Yeah. So that's something I always avoid, is the as needed. And even if I've gone to sales walks. I was in sales and they'll even say, well, I want that as needed. I'm like, what do you say as needed? Every day, we got to put something on it so we can all be accountable.
Yep. Exactly. So this next one, and like I said, go to our service schedules, look at them. If you want to be hypercritical and look over them, like I wouldn't put that in there, thank you. You'll help us to edit ours. So do service schedules need to be industry specific?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. No. And why I say that, we do a lot of medical, and a lot of our medical service schedules, honestly, are custom schedules, because you'll have some where you walk into a patient room and they don't want you touching anything, but, anything on the peripherals is fine. Don't touch medical, don't touch this. And other people are like, you know what? Wipe it all down. So those are usually customs. But yes, we all have templated service schedules for everything, because you may have distribution that you can't do this and you can't do that. Should go work for, FBI, government, stuff like that, where you can't go. So so you have to have something that's different for everyone.
Yeah, and it's and we're going to get to this question next, but yeah, industry specific. And I think we provide you in the link the ones that we use typically, but medical, office buildings, car dealerships, so they're very specific industries, and there are very specific change additions and so on in those. So yes, have them industry specific, not only because, you need to have them, but also if you hand somebody at a medical facility an office building service schedule, they're going to be like, dude, you don't know what you're doing. Like, I'm not hiring somebody who's cleaning office buildings to clean my clinic or to clean my surgery center. So you've got to be a professional.
Yeah. And it does set you apart. Absolutely.
Should you customize service schedules per the customer's requests? Where do I draw the line?
I mean, it's like just saying you can do anything you want. It just costs money.
Yeah.
So where do you draw the line? For me, and I know some people will probably be like, well, I do that. I don't change light bulbs. I don't put your door back on. If you want to, your construction company comes and takes it off. We're just not good at that. I mean, we can do it, but your light's probably not going to work.
Yeah.
But as far as anything else, people are like, well, carpet cleaning, all that, we can add that in. It can be a bundled service contract. And I mean, we don't like doing dishes, but
for scalability, and I'll just say that like we have templated service schedules for five or six different industries, right?
about that.
So if I have a client, this is what I love about service schedules and clients looking at things, especially when they want to work with you. This is a great, buying sign. I have a client call me up and they say, well, I'm looking over your service schedule. And this is after we've met with them. We've given them pricing. We've done all the things. And they're like, I'm looking over your service schedule and I see that you have elevators and stairwells on the service schedule, and I don't have those. So if I take those off, can you reduce the price? And I'm like, okay, so
now I say like,
well, thank you, ma'am, sir, whatever. I can appreciate that you're looking at it in this level of detail, and these are, templated, standardized service schedules for your industry type. What I can do, if it makes you feel more comfortable, is I can put on your proposal, because we'll actually put what we call service schedule additions and service schedule deletions on as specific line items in the actual proposal document, and we'll remove those lines or if they ask for things that are more specific, that are not, explicitly written on the service schedule, we'll add that as a service schedule addition. And we do it because, again, we train to the service schedule. So if a franchise owner looks at their offer for an account, and they see on their account that there's service schedule is multi-tenant office building, and they're not going to read the service schedule because they've been trained to know what's on it, and they train people to it. So if it's not explicitly put into their proposal, add X, subtract Y, then they're not going to even pay attention to it. So, you have to be very, very careful not to turn into I'm going to create a new service schedule for every single customer. And if you're going to do that, make sure that it's written in a way that it's almost like an addendum to the templated service schedule. And don't fall victim to the if you take the stairs and the elevator off, you must have bid that as part of the process, part of the pricing. Will you reduce it? That's a sucker's game if you lower the price to get the deal. What they're basically saying is that I want to work with you, but I would say this: I want to work with you, but my boss said, ask them about it and see if you can get a better price. And if you get a better price, then
why do you ask?
Well, absolutely.
Why do you ask?
Yeah, but I don't think I've ever had a customer or a prospect ask me that and not become a customer. Like ever. They're not going to say, oh, well, forget it. I mean, you don't take the elevator off and give me a better price. And I'm like,
someone else will take the elevator off.
I've never had it happen. And if I ever did, I'd be like, dude, you don't have an elevator.
I know you don't.
We have a full building inventory. We wrote everything out. We know what everything is. We gave you a price based on that. Do you want to see the building inventory? No, it's okay. We're going to go with you. That's what they're going to do. So, but I would just say draw the line when it comes to changing every single thing, like on every single service schedule, every customer.
I mean, there are things
exclusive one.
Like on a medical cleaning side, there's things that get added in that if you're looking at it operationally, like the thing that always hits me is terminal cleaning of gurneys in surgery centers. And this is where I always look at, we get a sale in, because terminal cleaning of gurneys, while it looks like, oh, that's easy, I just wipe it down. They can be 20 minutes a gurney.
Absolutely.
And if you have 15 of those every night, that's stuff that, I always look at operationally, like, okay, are we doing that? If not, is it billed? So that's stuff that if it's not explicit in the service schedule, that's something you could definitely get yourself in trouble with.
Yeah.
Terminal cleaning of ORs, like, are we cleaning ones that aren't open? Because they do have ORs that are closed in some of these surgery centers. Right. Getting those numbers right. But that's all operational stuff that it needs to be in this service schedule.
Oh, and like I said, I mean, we put it in our proposals. Like, there's gurney cleaning as a product line item.
Exactly.
OR cleaning is a product line item. So when a customer looks at our proposal, the proposal says medical cleaning, and then it says OR cleaning with a number with the price. And sometimes I'll get folks that will look at that and they're like, well, can't you just put it all together? I'm like, no, because they are unique when it comes to what we do. Yeah. Well, it says OR cleaning in your service schedule. Can you just put it all as one number? I'm like, no, because we're looking at it operationally, and they need to see there are 4 ORs, and that this is how much they're getting for that. And if they can budget their hours, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, when and how do I share my service schedule with my customer or prospect? How to include it in your bid, etc. So I would share the service schedule with them after you have met with them in person, you've walked everything, you've done your building inventory, and you're presenting your proposal. Since COVID, we send most stuff by email. And so you would send that in as a link. I mean, with our systems, when they click on the link, it tells us they're opening it, so we can see that they're actively involved in, looking at it, how long they've looked at it. So we get a lot of data from the link, right? The unique link. I would not send them a service schedule before you go out and meet with them. I think that's a rookie mistake. It's kind of that's just kind of rookie stuff. They invited you in. They've done their due diligence. They know who you are. You don't need to start sending them stuff now. Just wait until after you've done everything and then send it to them. And I would do that by email with the proposal itself.
So I get one other question for you, Matt. Sorry.
Yeah.
When to share a service schedule with my customer or prospect? We have a lot of accounts that are very large accounts. When I say very large, like you'll have a property management company that's in, one building, and we have 15 other buildings.
Yeah.
And you walk into someone else and they want your service schedule.
Oh, yeah.
And that person's not who you sold to.
Good point.
Right? So I see that a lot operationally. To me, that's a huge red flag. That's why, one of my favorite questions is, why do you ask? Can I see your service schedule? Why do you ask? Or because a lot of times our customers say, I want to know every time you send a service schedule out. I want to have approval because they know too, it's probably a complaint. Something's going on. That's why they see us in service schedule. So we have that call come in the office. We always raise a red flag and have the right person call them and say, hey, we're service schedule, and make sure everything's okay. But a lot of times the last thing you want is to have Mary at the front desk, who now turns into checklist lady and says, look, it says you vacuum every day. But I noticed that underneath my desk in the corner, there's been a little piece of dust.
Yeah.
That was there yesterday. Just there today.
Yeah. So, and this is, your primary customer is the property manager. And so, when you get asked those, it is an absolute trap. It's an absolute trap. So have to be careful and make the right choice, be a professional, and recognize that that's what's happening. There's always that fine line, right? That people are like, well, that's not very good customer service if you deny them the service schedule. We should just be doing it. Yeah, no.
But it's more than that. It's
so much more than that.
It needs a conversation.
It needs a conversation, and the person who's asking for it, like you said, is likely somebody who's just a busybody that's looking for something more to do, and they want to complain and they want to feel important. I mean, I gotta be really careful about what I say, but that's just the truth to me, is what they're trying to do.
And usually they want to hurt.
They want to be heard, but they can be heard by their boss that is like 3 layers below our primary contact. It's a whole different conversation, but we'll talk about that another time.
So now we're
into this or that.
We're changing, and we're going to this or that, right?
Yeah, we're going to go to this or that. Let's knock it out.
Some of you haven't met wrote a couple of these on draft, so we're going to go with a couple of those, and I have some new ones.
Okay.
The first one we're going to go with, would you rather meet Bigfoot or an alien? Now, first we have to say, okay, are aliens and Bigfoot, do they even exist? Because I think this, which is funny. I just said my son's 11. He has autism, and so he sees things a little bit differently. And we were watching the show, and I was like, Dad, is Bigfoot real? And I was like, what do you think? And he's like, well, I think that if Bigfoot was real, he'd be like 500 years old because they never find Bigfoot's dead body. So does that mean he's always alive? Which is a good point, and I kind of agree with him because Bigfoot's got to die eventually, right?
You would think.
If there's more than one Bigfoot, wouldn't there be a bunch of Bigfoots just running around the forest?
Well, so are you? We're not. The question isn't do you believe in Bigfoot or the alien? Okay, which one do you want to meet? I mean, just say.
I don't think I want to meet Bigfoot because I think he would tear you apart.
That's the first thing that came to mind.
That's like having a bear and a gorilla together.
No,
and that's the thing. The person that lives is the person that could run the
well. It's and chances are like the stories you get is that aliens tend to be like 5 foot tall with really big heads and they're really skinny.
I'm working alien.
Running, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, if I had to put hands on them,
I'd break the brakes off an alien.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking. You know, he might mind control you though. I mean, that could be, but I'm still going to choose alien.
Okay.
In case, for my own survival, I'm going to choose the alien too.
So second one, would you rather not to be able to sit down for the rest of your life or spend a year on a desert island alone? You'd have to be alone because if you miss a meal, oh my God, there may be some crabs there for you to kill.
I would rather be on a deserted island somewhere. Absolutely. For a year.
That's hard for me.
And you're going to find a way to survive, but standing up, dude, I can't even stand in line at Disneyland. You got longer than 45 minutes without wanting to
I'm not undone that.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. Not on it.
Would you rather live a life as the opposite gender or start your life over as a kid again? So when we swap, okay, let's say tomorrow you wake up and now you're a female.
Okay,
or I'm a female. Or tomorrow I wake up as I'm a kid.
I think we need to be careful because there's a lot of gender.
We have the same parents. We have the same parents. So let's put that out there. And now my parents have grandkids. I would definitely not want to do that.
So, well, I mean, look, if you start over young,
well, see, I'm like,
that
means I probably got menopause, so I don't have to worry about female issues.
But what I'm saying is, you start over young, you're leaving your family behind, your kids, your wife, now you're a baby. That's pretty tragic for them.
It didn't say you had to leave everybody behind, just a kid.
Well, I realized.
So you come to the office.
I think I'd rather change gender.
I go with gender too.
I'm going to go with gender. I don't want to be a baby. I don't want to do that.
So let's see.
They're nasty, dirty beans.
So, have a fight with a shark. Would you rather have a fight with a shark or walk over a beehive? How big is the beehive? What if it's just a little tiny one that's in the eaves of my house? Honey, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to walk over a beehive because I do not like sharks. I'm a fish. I'm a fish out of water. I mean, I'm not we're not on even playing field here. That shark's gonna tear you up. The bees are gonna
fight a shark.
The bees are gonna beat you up too, though. But at least you can run as fast as you can. I mean, you might get stung and you might die, but you're guaranteed to die fighting a shark.
You at least not have some arm.
You're gonna be missing an arm or a leg, or your head might be half off or something.
You bob.
I'm going with bees.
Idea.
I'm going with bees. All right, give me one more.
Go with the bees.
Well, one more, and then we're gonna move on to questions.
Always smell like a dog, or eat a tarantula.
Neither are very good options.
I'm gonna go always smell like a dog because I'm gonna take my dog, and my dog washes him every other day. So he smells pretty good. He's a good boy. I cannot do bugs. I was overseas and people would eat those.
But I think I'm gonna eat a tarantula because that's a one-time thing. And I ain't rolling into a meeting and somebody's like,
What if you only smell like a dog like in the morning you took a shower?
But that's not what it says. It's like you always smell like a dog. So you're gonna be like, I mean, you're always gonna be worried that
They don't want to smell.
No, he doesn't. But it's not. It didn't say that your dog. It said a dog.
It'd be like a junkyard.
Well, dogs in general stink. I mean, they,
Paw Patrol dogs probably don't smell.
they poop, they don't wipe themselves. Like they're nasty.
That's true.
So I'm going with I'm eating a tarantula. Just saying. All right.
Let's go to the same thing. All right, let's move on. We can do this all day, but let's move on.
We're gonna go and answer some questions. We're gonna do some questions. So from King Mitchell 653 asks, what do you think about the name Spotless Pro? Would love to have your honest take on it.
The word spotless to me, when I first read it, I'm thinking like Windows or car wash guy.
I was thinking the exact same thing. It kind of moves me into this window cleaning side.
Like it says, like, yeah, you'll do a good job, but I don't know if I want to do it every day.
I would also say from a branding perspective, when you create a name, it needs to be a name that you can imagine on the front of Inc. magazine, Entrepreneur magazine. I don't know if I'd see Spotless Pro on the front of either of those magazines. Here's what I would say. Take Pro off and just put Spotless.
I would say the same thing. Because once you have Pro, one customer is going to say, well, they sucked at iBuilding. There's no Pro in this building. So it can be negative.
I think you can just do a lot more with Spotless than you could with Spotless Pro. I mean, Spotless Pro is, I guess it's kind of, my honest opinion is that it's kind of basic. But Spotless, you could do some cool stuff with that.
Yeah, you could do a little bit with that.
All right. Thanks, King Mitchell. From Sean Coopy, I think that's what it said. Coopy. Could you talk about different positions in the cleaning business? You guys mentioned starters and closers, and et cetera. So yeah, well,
we could definitely. I mean,
go for it.
For a definition, and he's probably looking like for a definition.
Yeah. I mean, a starter.
So how this is defined,
Yeah, let Greg kind of go through that.
is who does what in the building, and like I always say, we have rules that never change, right? So my starter will always have. Their responsibilities will be dusting and trash no matter what. That does never change.
No.
And then you're looking at your closers are always responsible for vacuuming, doing flooring. That never changes. Your sanitor is responsible for your restrooms. That never changes. And then as far as you go to utility, you could go utility down a rabbit hole. Depends how big your building is. But a lot of times in smaller buildings or smaller accounts, utility is going to be possibly divided by the three. And a utility, when I talk about just like extra duties. If you have a bunch of common area hallways, you're probably going to have your closer do it. But that's really what it is. I mean, if you really want to get deep into it, what I would say is go buy the cards off the website. It explains everything with everything. Yeah, what I would say is go grab those and it'll give you a little more insight.
Yeah, I was going to say, Sean, Sean Akupi here, and anyone else, is that we talk about it a lot because everything we do is built around the OctoClean system and how people clean buildings. Just like anything that you would do at a high level, you can know how to do it, but you have to constantly practice it and learn it and refine it and so on. And so if you don't even know what it is and you don't have the rules of the game, which in our case would be the cards and the videos that are part of the QR scan that you're getting as part of that purchase, then, you're just trying to create some. Why reinvent the wheel? I don't even know what they cost. I think they're like $100, $50, something like that. Whatever the cost is, it's well worth. I mean, if we would have been, we didn't know what we didn't know, and we created before team cleaning was even a concept.
We had to.
In the early 90s, it wasn't even something that people were talking about. We went into a building, and somebody who was part of Unisource back in the day, it's kind of like a waxy equivalent, was like, are you guys doing team cleaning? And we were already been in business for 5 or 6 years. And I was like, well, I don't know what you're talking about.
We should call it time cleaning because we had a list of 50 buildings that said, hey, be back by this time.
That's right.
And just 3 people.
But when I talked to the person about it, they're like, we just went to a conference and they trained us on this. It's this like newest thing. And I'm like, yeah, well, we've been doing it forever. But, you've got to you need these Team Clean cards or these OctoClean, cards. They're amazing. And you'll learn a lot from that. So go there, Sean Akupi.
I'm not sure who this, I'll just say Codem Action Clips. At what point do you get a dilution control system installed in a facility? Like how big of an account? All right, so let's chat about that. First of all, if you're going to drill holes in a wall, you have to ask the customer.
Yep.
Especially if you're in a surgical facility, because a lot of those walls, you're not allowed to penetrate the wall, period, ever. So if you look behind Matt's head, there's a portable dilution station. That is where I would start. And then from there, say, look, we do dilute our chemicals. Because I'll be honest with you, probably 60% of the people out there don't use dilution control. So that conversation you're having with that customer are going to be like, what's that? And then you have to explain, well, it's kind of like a soda machine, but for cleaning chemicals. And we put it up here so we have the right amount of dilution and with, chemical and water. And then they'll be like, okay, what does it entail? But you have to tell them we are going to be installing it on the wall. It can be removed, but we are going to be penetrating the wall.
Yep.
So keep that in mind. And really, it's up to you guys. We always look at space. A lot of times if I have a day porter facility, I'll be like, hey, I'm going to go ask.
Yeah.
But it's always up to the customer.
People will, if you have a janitor closet, you have water access, and the customer allows you to use it, then you should put one up, because whoever you're buying your chemical from is going to give you this dispensing unit at no cost. If you're going site to site and you don't have a lot of room, then you're going to use a portable dilution control system. And I see a lot of franchise owners that will go to buildings and they have plenty of room and they're not putting it up. And I think that's just a fear of hanging them on the wall. But it seriously increases efficiencies if you have a dilution control system. And I would be doing all of us a disservice if I didn't remind everybody that if you use a dilution control system, make sure you turn the water off when you're done using it.
So why do you say that, Matt?
So do you have liability insurance?
If you don't, you sell it.
No, we don't. Yeah, if you have liability insurance and you want to see how much it costs after you have $1 million claim, because you flooded a building out because you didn't turn the water off, then, just don't turn the water off. I mean, you'll see.
And what he's talking about is it's not going to let the water run in a faucet in the sink. So with these dilution control, it looks like the water's off. I go up to it and the water's coming out. But what's really going on is water pressure is building in the hoses that go to the dilution control. Hoses burst, and now water is not turned off. Water's flowing all over the floor, and it's flooding a building.
Yeah, I don't have the exact number of gallons that a hose left on.
I think it's like
it's a lot. I mean, when I was in water damage restoration, certification, I remember them telling me how much a hose off of the toilet was, and I was blown away at how much water comes out of one of those hoses that are connected to your toilet. And I can only imagine off of a dilution control system that it has to be that much or more, So turn them off. But, that's our public service announcement for the day. All right. So, we're going to go ahead and cut out then. I think we did okay. You did all right.
Yep.
You do good.
Your hair does look good, though.
Dude, I'm telling you, I was like, I'm going to take a picture.
It's really good. You should have to take a picture of you today.
Okay. In the cardigan, too?
Absolutely.
And
then you can read me a story.
Don't forget, too, we have some swag, okay, over here at the store. So Greg's got his Pac-Man shirt on. I've got This Building Isn't Gonna Clean Itself shirt. I actually wore this shirt to Disneyland, and I had a lot of people asking me about it because it is cool. But we want to thank everyone for watching or listening to this episode of the OctoClean Podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment with the topics that you want us to discuss next time. If you are listening, don't forget to rate and review this podcast, and we'll see you next episode. Thank you all. And
thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Greg.